Welcome to Remnant Online Followers. Please kindly subscribe. Thank you.
After the program, it was a 1 week program. I was supposed to sing for like 2 days. After the 2 days, I told the pastor, I'll be here for all the days. I'll be here for the enjoyment there was too much.
Do you need more songs?
I was like, man, I was going to be here for a long time. So the pastor was excited. Like, okay, they had to change my return ticket. So I didn't know that it was God. That prompting was God. So sometimes when we have something urging us in our spirit that we don't understand, and that voice keeps coming, we should just follow it. Because when the thoughts came in and asked me to stay back, I just felt it was all about staying in the church, but I didn't know that God was up to something. So after the 1 week event, the church sent some money to my account, and God told me, when I received the alert, God told me in the hotel and said, this is a seed, give it out. It was my first 500,000 I ever received in my life. I was like, $500,000 naira, I should give it out. Like, why? How? It was a process I didn't understand, but I was just trying to follow. So I was ready to give it out. Who do I give it out to? And God told me to visit some of the music ministers in Abuja that I know, reach out to them and sow into their life. So it was then I reached out to Minister K Strings. I'm sure he can remember. I reached out to him on Instagram. I was like, man of God, I heard you live in Abuja. Please, can I see you? I reached out to a lot of them, and including Minister Moses Bliss. And period to this time, before I got to Abuja, after I started training, Minister Moses Bliss had sent me messages on Instagram. He wanted me to even come for one of his meetings that he had before the Abuja meeting, but I couldn't make it that day because the phone I was using was a dead phone. So I was missing his messages, that period. So I reached out to a few of them and I was going to sow that money into their life. I got to see Minister K Strings and a few of them. I had dinner with some of them because they were excited to see me. They were seeing me for the first time because they've heard my song. And some of them are like, oh, you're the young boy who sang. And I'm like, oh, yes, please, you guys should pray for me. That day, the reception Mr. Keston gave me was amazing, because I went to his house. We sang, he prayed for me, and then I sowed into his life. And then, so I had just one more day to leave. Minister Moses was not in Abuja that time when I reached out to him. So he requested that, okay, he will be back like the next day. So I was like, okay, I was still going to wait for him. Okay. So I had to still move my flight, forward. So when he got back, then he told me that his birthday was, the next day. So I was like, oh, wow, even a good time to visit, the minister. So I went to see him the night we spoke. It was a whole lot of conversation. So that was when I spoke to minister that night. And then I started telling him about, all the way I prayed to came about. I didn't plan for all this whole sensation I'm getting right now. It just came. I just went to the studio that day, recorded it, and it's everywhere. We spoke, we laughed, we had a great time.
I'm happy that you brought that up because I've been very curious around the Spotlight Nation conversation.
Oh yeah.
So was this when the conversation around being signed to Spotlight Nation happened?
Okay, so when I met Mr. Moses Bliss, there was no conversation of being signed. I didn't know he had a record label at that time.
Okay.
So I just knew him as Moses Bliss, the minister. I met Mr. Moses Bliss that very day in the house, and we had a lengthy conversation, and we spoke about, the recent buzzing around my songs and everything that was going on. So I told him at that time, I was just doing the ministry stuff. And it was then I told him, I was excited, sharing it to him. And then I started telling him how the stuff was on, I'm seeing my song here. And he was like, your songs are on people's platform and you are not aware. Professionally, it's not good for your brand. That was when they started calling a few people that were into, all of this platform and started telling them that they need to help me claim all of this
claim
stuff.
Your copyright.
Yeah, that was when that was when I started knowing about, the professional aspect about the music and, copyright claim and all of those. So it was, and after that time, the relationship between me and Moses Bliss grew so stronger. That was where, just after that time, the contract came about. I joined Spotlight Nation officially, and it's been a beautiful moment, since then,
Before we go into you joining Spotlight,
okay.
Would you now say this was a good fit for you? You had the anointing, you had the gifts of the ministry, but you didn't know so much about the professional side, and then you met Moses Bliss. So was this a way that you felt he was beneficial to you?
Oh yes, I would always be grateful, for the role Minister Moses played in my life because, as at that time I had the anointing, I had the gifting, but didn't know all of these things professionally. So there was a lot that I learned. There was a lot I knew, the platform opened me, to to a lot of things that I know right now.
Okay.
You know, a lot of things that are working for me now. You know, the platform opened it for me, and I'm very, you know, that's one thing I'm so grateful about. I mean, Mr. Moses, you know, calling me, you know, putting me together. I'm like, this thing needs to be done. This thing you can no longer do this thing this way. You know, Minister Moses will emphasize on a lot of things about me those times and say, this thing you can no longer do this way. This thing you can no longer do this way. You have to look like this. You have to do this like this. You have to, you know, sing this way. You have to mean, even if, you know, there was a whole lot of, you know, a lot of controversies around a particular interview that I had in Ghana during my prayer and worship. So one of the things people didn't know that time was that was not a podcast section or neither an interview that I was invited. I was the one who had that interview for my event. So a lot of people thought it was an interview I went to speak about, you know, Spotlight and all of those things. I went there for my program. So it was the conversations that was, you know, that came up. I was just trying to address, because everybody was like, oh, we no longer see you in their videos. We no longer see you this. And I was just trying to pass a simple message. Said, I'm grateful for the journey, you know, that I've been through here. But at this point now, this is a next, you know, level for me to focus on my ministry.
Left Spotlight.
Yes, at that time I had left Spotlight already. But, you know, social media and the desperation to know, you know, a lot of things, you know. So when I had that interview, a lot of people started thinking, oh, this, that Igbo boy, this, you know. But I had a reason why I had not said anything since that time, because I had not, you know, I didn't want to bring more, you know, conversations around that thing. So I just kept quiet about it. According to Minister Moses Bliss, you know, ministry is deep. And it's a lot that I learned from him. Ministry is deeper than what people see. You know, most times where we have to, you know, sing and people here, they don't know where all of those things are coming from. So it's beyond the releasing of songs. There is a lot of instructions that governs all of the things that we do. So if I'm getting to that point where God is saying, this is the next point of my life and we both parties are good, then I don't see reasons why anybody would want to, you know, come into the conversation.
But you rightfully said, because I watched that interview, and I believe it was a radio station in Ghana. And even as I watched all the interview sessions, I couldn't really pick all the points. It felt like there were bits and pieces of this conversation. So this is an opportunity for us to clear the air on why you left Spotlight Nation. Okay,
so going back to the interview I had in Ghana, you know, one of the things that happened in that interview was that there was a lot of misinterpretation of what I was going to say. And that was not the basic thing that they put out. So what I was trying to communicate there that day was that, because some people, I saw a lot of buzz around the whole interview saying, I'm trying to say it's not spiritual and I'm spiritual. That's not my standpoint. First, who am I to even declare somebody not spiritual and me spiritual, you know? So I feel like there's some information that I personally don't just want to put out there, but we all get to the point where we just want to be focused on the next phase of our life. And I think I got to that point where, I'm like, because of the assignment of God upon my life, I know what God has instructed me to do. I'm grateful for the times at which I spent there, you know, the moments we had, you know, the support and all the investment into my life. I'm grateful for it. And as well, Minister Moses knows how grateful I am. He knows how humble I have been. I've been serving, you know, under the label. He knows. So these are not things that are for the public consumptions. You know, I just feel like this is the next phase of my life, and we just have to carry on as Jesus Christ is leading us. He is doing well, and I'm excited. I'm doing well for myself. I'm excited. The goal is just to see God glorified in whatever we are doing.
Thank you so much for clarifying that. One more thing I wanted to ask was, I did watch an interview where Moses Bliss stated, he was talking to a couple of media personnel, and he said that there was a 3-year contract, but you were just with him for 11 months. Can we get some clarity on that?
So, sincerely, when I saw that interview, I was really a bit sad about some of the things that were said there. If I begin to pick point into some of the things that was mentioned, it's not really necessary. You know, I am not really happy with the way a lot of things went. But at this point, there is really nothing I can do. But the beautiful thing about this whole thing is that we are good. You know, we both we came to a compromise about everything that happened. You know, and God is glorified. He's doing His ministry, doing well. I'm doing whatever God is asking me to do. I'm doing well. You know, and I'm excited. You know, He's happy. I'm happy. We're good. The information, a lot of people really want to get. You know, I feel like it's really not necessary. But then, that interview didn't really sit well with me, you know, because of a lot of things that were said around it. But glory to God, we have moved on. Yeah.
Okay. From the videos that you rightfully said, and you just mentioned how you do feel a little bit of sadness, and I feel like you're one out of many millions of people who also feel sad that, this split happened. We might not have as much understanding as we want to, but we know that there was like a brotherhoodness with everyone, even with other artists in the Spotlight Nation. So do you sometimes miss them?
Like I said before, I'm in good terms with everybody. All my brothers in the label were all good. Though a lot of things can happen, in relationships, but we are good. I sometimes miss the moment, those moments we share, those moments we have. Sincerely, I sometimes miss those moments, but I've gotten to a point where we just have to focus on what is ahead, and let the past be. Minister Moses will always remain, one of the people that has inspired my life, my ministry, and everything that I do. And I will always continue to acknowledge him in everything that I do. So I'm grateful for the role he played in my life. I am sincerely grateful, and I always will be grateful. I owe nothing against the minister, and I'm sure he does. So the same with me. So any other thing anybody's looking for, I think they should just keep praying for us. And I assure everybody that very soon, as long as we live to see the return of Christ, they are going to see more and beautiful things from me and Minister Moses Bliss. That I can assure them. So
with this, with what you have just said, is it safe to assume that both of you are in speaking terms?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
We are on speaking terms. We spoke into the new year. Of course, we have to be in speaking terms because I still have a lot of things, a lot of memories, a lot of properties, intellectual properties, materials songs with the label. So there's no way we will not be in communication. Trust me when I say we're in good communication. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for that. I think what I want to ask next is if you are given an opportunity, or if the opportunity presents itself to maybe do a song with him or work on a project together, is that something you're open to? I
would gladly do that. In fact, I would gladly do that. And like I said before, they should watch out. What a lot of people like to see is the downfall of many, and they are so interested in when there's an issue, but they should also be interested in seeing us doing something again in the future.
Oh, that's amazing to hear. One more thing I wanted to ask you before we move on to a lighter note is, what is one thing that you have to say to musicians, especially gospel artists out there who they have the gifts, just like you, they have the anointing, and they have opportunities to perhaps sign with a record label, or they want to be more professional? What are some of the things that they should do based on the lessons that you have learned?
Okay, so sincerely, like I like to use the word sincerely because when I'm speaking, most of my words comes from the depth of my heart. So for the music ministers, those into ministry that started their life just like I shared my story, I didn't start as a professional music person, but I had a desire to become better. So don't say because you're anointed, you don't want to know more about, what is around the music, industry as well. Study, ask questions before you go into anything, have knowledge about those things, deeper knowledge, be sure of what you want to do. And above all, be sure that God is leading you to do it, and whatever it is also that God is leading you to do, despite whatever people will say. Because the truth is, people will always talk. There is nothing you do that people, whether you do or you undo, people will talk. People always have their opinion about everything. But my encouragement to many of us out there is that just stay focused on the calling and assignment. Because one of the things that has kept me going was what I heard God told me. You will go to the nations. You will spread my message through music. So there is a kind of music that I have. There is a kind of message that I carry. I am not comparing myself with anybody. We need to have this knowledge. I don't want to be like anybody. I want to be me. God should be able to find me, in whatever I am doing, not another person.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's quite powerful. So now let's go on to, I've been talking a lot of serious, deep conversations. Yes. Let's have a little game. I curated this game based on your preference. Okay. I call it the Worship Freestyle Challenge. Okay. Are you ready? So I'm going to give you 3 random words. Okay. And if we enter the spirit now, we might not, that's till 10 p.m.
Everybody's following that noise here right now.
But if you can just maybe compose a 1-liner or 2-liners with it that is musically inclined, Yeah. Okay, so now the three words are testimony, London, and patience. Can you compose something musically oriented with that?
Testimony,
London,
London.
and patience.
So, sorry, I'm going to ask, should I join the words together or I'm singing?
You're free to do it anyhow you want to. You can start with whatever you can put. It's just the three words.
Okay, this is putting me on the spot because I'm really not more of a songwriter or a freestyle artist.
Okay.
You know, most of the things you see me do there, you know,
It's from God.
are bettered. You are my testimony. Jesus, you are my testimony. Every day, every night, when I think of all you've done, Jesus, you are my testimony. So I think that's the chorus already.
I love it. Let me invest 2 years about London. Even when you were in London, he was a testimony.
So I traveled to London. My first trip to London is a testimony.
I love it. I think that's amazing. Should we have a license to, you know, that part is okay?
Why not?
Okay,
Why
we
not?
have permission.
Why not? Please, go ahead.
All right,
Whatever.
then. Okay, so now I want to go into a topic that we all love.
Okay.
Which is LOVE. So I recently saw a picture of you.
Yeah.
I think you were in church and there was like an empty seat beside you. And you said this time next year,
Yes.
that God, you know, make my own.
Do it for me.
Do it for me. So where are we at right now? There are lots of women out there that are just eyeing you. I will not lie to you. And they want to be a part of your kingdom journey. So are we on the market? Are we?
And you know, this is one part about me that everybody wants to know. I'm not saying I'm keeping my relationship life private. I'm not saying that. But one of the things that inspired that picture, I saw one of my brother's picture too. He was in church with his wife. So I was like, oh God, when am I going to also go to church? Not like I'm all about wanting to marry. You know, for me, I'm giving myself another 2 years, 3 years, you know, by the grace of God, except God speaks. I am big on listening to God. I am very big on listening to God's voice. But I am giving myself the next 2-3 years, you know, by the grace of God, we are going to unveil and reveal whoever God has prepared.
I think
for
I have
us.
my answer already.
And a lot of people have been
We're
saying a lot
going
of
to
things.
unveil. So there has to be something there to unveil. Before I move on,
Okay.
you also, I think it was an old interview actually.
Yeah.
You mentioned how, you're talking about heartbreak.
Oh my God.
That one girl broke your heart. And I'm like, hey, are you sure that's not where I will pray from? You know, was this you the younger part in your journey?
Yeah, you know, like I was sharing my story, you know, I was just a young boy that grew up from a family that loved Jesus, but there were a lot of things I didn't understand about life. So I want to take it like this part of my life, that part of my life, you know, was part of the moment where I really didn't understand where I was going. But I was just following life the way it is, you know, as a young boy, you just have to have a girlfriend, you know, and I had this girl, she was even far away, you know, it was a distant relationship, you know, in that story. So I feel like the girl got to a point where after she saw my life, saw the way I was suffering, you know, like I said, and it's not her fault. You know, a lot of people you don't have to believe. It's not her fault that nobody wants to stay with a man that doesn't have a future, obviously. So, and I feel like I was still young. So, but it really affected me because this was going to be my first time I was ever going to give my heart out as a young man, you know, being in love, and it was a distant relationship. So the lady was far away. I was in Lagos, you know, we were just talking. And, you know, one of the time I had my retreat, you know, I had to travel down to the place, you know, I went to see her parents. I've been longing to, in my head, at that time, I was going to get married, you know, I just wanted my life, you know, to be, you know, going like that, smooth, you know, because I never had I never knew things were going to turn like this for me, this fast or this soon. So I just felt like now that my life was the way it, let me just, you know, get somebody that loved me now, you know, marry and, you know, just start my life the way my father and my parents are living. But I didn't know God had better plans for me. So everything that happened that period was just my growing process and, you know, yeah.
Well, we're actually looking forward to that unveiling.
By the grace of God. Very
By
soon.
the special grace of God.
Very soon.
Thank you for watching. Please kindly like, comment, subscribe, and turn on your notification bell so you always get notified whenever we post a new video. And don't forget to share. Thank you.